Hello, Julie. Welcome to DEI podcast series. Thank you so much for joining this podcast and talking to us. Before we dive into the discussion, I would love you to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Dr. Julie Harrigan. I am a hospitalist family medicine physician by training, and I also wear a second hat in hospice and palliative care. I now subspecialize in clinical informatics, and I do consulting for large healthcare systems to help them restructure their electronic health record. I work with companies in physician advisory, as far as in the regulatory policy space, anything clinical that touches the physician, the nurses, and more importantly, the patient, to help these companies improve patient safety, standardize their practices, and really become as up to date as possible with the best clinical evidence-based practice. So it's a lot of flying from here to there and working with healthcare systems, typically 10 or more hospitals, to get them all into one platform.
That's awesome. So we'll probably dive into the discussion. And the first thing I would like to ask, and maybe the listeners would love to hear, is your personal story. What are the challenges you faced? And if you could give some example wherein you could talk about how you came over those challenges, that would be really wonderful.
Absolutely. So, I mean, in medicine, there's so many stories that I could tell of challenges and resilience. But I'll just start with kind of how I started out. Really, when I think back on my career, which now spans about 21 years at this point. Which, when I think about that, two things come to mind: is, oh my gosh, I'm getting old, and then two, it's everything that has happened is about the personal choices that I've made, in my career, in my personal life, to really, get me where I am today, which is, an executive in the C-suite, working with these large healthcare systems. It's really hard to become a member of the medical community, for two reasons. One, I'm family practice. So, by definition, I'm kind of the low man on the totem pole as far as career wise, not to diminish family practitioners. I'm certainly one of them. I love my patients, love my patient care, but it doesn't get the recognition that, many of the other specialties do. But moreover, I was a foreign medical graduate. I went to medical school. I grew up in Mexico, went to medical school in Mexico. And, and as such, it's, again, very challenging to be a foreign medical graduate coming to the United States. And I literally came to the US, to seek more evidence-based practice and to really, nurture that best practice, which has always been in the foremost of my brain. And so, getting into things like residency was darn near impossible. I speak perfect English. I'm from the United States. I had excellent grades. I had really good exam marks, and it was still, it still took me 3 years and 2 tries. And at that, I had to scramble just to get a family medicine residency position, where I actually wanted to be a cardiologist. So, two totally different worlds. But at that point, I really thought that just getting my foot in the door was going to, hopefully then open the next door in front of that and the next door in front of that. I remember coming home from that session, getting into residency and crying my eyes out because I didn't get the specialty that I wanted, but knowing that I was just going to have to persevere, I was just going to have to do it. So, I had to really, throughout all of my career, a couple things was I had to convince everybody around me that I was not only a doctor. I went to med school when I was 18, so I was very young when I applied for residency. And in most cases, people just see a young girl and think, well, you must be the nurse. When's the doctor coming in? So, just convincing everybody from my peers to my patients that I was capable and intelligent and, and that I could lead others, even in more respected specialties, has been quite a hurdle. And then being a woman in medicine in, kind of old men in white coats, scenario, my entire life, moreover in Mexico, but still here in the United States, that culture is very, very prevalent, especially in the C-suite executive space. You kind of have to become that strong woman and really present yourself with not only kind of like a social stature, on your own within that community, but then still convince people that you should be respected as a woman in business, even as a family practitioner, even as that low man on the totem pole, as it were, and then continue to persevere. And so it's a struggle every day, especially as a girl, just convincing people that you're not, just a girl. I remember very early in my career, and even before that, I was told that I was too pretty to be smart, and then I didn't need to be smart, that I could just marry somebody smart and, have a sugar daddy and go on. And then I had people trying to convince me that I should be a nurse, that I shouldn't be a doctor, that I wouldn't have the family life that I wanted. And, I think that when you really want something, and this goes back to my story of personal resilience, was that I made it a priority to not only further my career, but also to simultaneously have a work-life balance and have my children and have my marriage and have, all of these things where I could, essentially work hard and then play hard on the other side, and still, try to take care of those around me. And, my twin daughters are 13 years old now. In my career, I have stepped up the ladder of success by just, again, keeping my foot in that door and not allowing it to close over and over again. When it wanted to, getting into things like medical executive committees, volunteering for the hard shifts, helping out my fellow specialists when, when they needed somebody to just take care of the patient, and just put your head down, and tried to create opportunities for myself to become that leader and to demonstrate that I could not only be part of that team of, really successful people, but also that I could lead them. And that's been, that's been very, very interesting throughout my career. And it started out as a foreign medical graduate, lowly, low man on the totem pole family medicine doctor who has now made, fortunately, a very successful career in advising other doctors that I'm sure are smarter than I am and have much more training than I do, and large healthcare systems, how they should best practice medicine in order to, not only continue to be profitable, run their business, and keep their patients safe. And, and so that, I think, is really kind of my best example of my story of personal resilience in medicine.
Awesome. I am sure that viewers are going to find it really, really inspiring. I think you've been extremely persistent. You broke all the cliched, opinions which people usually have, and you kept on pushing yourself, and that is why probably you are where you are today. So that's a great story. So, what advice or message would you like to give to the young women who aspire to pursue their dreams just like you did?
You know, again, when you're a woman in business, in any business, I just happen to be in healthcare, have confidence in yourself, just keep showing up, keep putting yourself out there, go from doing the grunt work and don't complain, and, and be helpful, offer advice. If you're going to have, I always say, if you're going to have a complaint about something, you better back it up with a solution, because otherwise, not only does that make you a complainer, but it also makes you a whiny girl, which again, that stigma, kind of breaking that mold and that perception of women, and the fact that, we may not be as strong in those spaces in certain cases, so always have a solution, or at least a proposal for a solution to back up whatever you're complaining about. Don't ever think of yourself as just a girl. You just know that you are an intelligent woman, and there's a true superpower to that, that people don't really realize. When you come from the back of the line and shock everybody with, something either intelligent that you've said, or maybe not intelligent, but sometimes just your presence alone, it's enough to really foster that that admiration and really foster those relationships, especially in business. One of the things that I could say as an example, and this was passed on to me by a very intelligent chief operating officer of one of the companies that I worked for before. And she said, if you're going to really want to get into this, and really become a leader as a female, you're going to want to read this book. And it's called Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. And it's by Lois P. Frankel. She's a PhD, and it is literally a step-by-step guide about how to be a girl working in a man's world. Anything from how you should carry yourself, your posture, how you should offer up your opinions, how you should dress, all of this stuff. And some of the things I realized that I knew already, just intuitively, just from experience. But a lot of the things that she brought up were things that I had never even thought about, just posture sitting at a boardroom table, things like that really kind of almost force your presence into the room, but without being obnoxious or overbearing, or looking like you're trying too hard. And so I would definitely recommend to any young woman trying to get into, any sort of business, even if you're not going to aspire to become a C-suite executive, just working, period, anywhere. I would definitely recommend that book. It was really just very helpful from a tips perspective. There's a couple of others that follow that I liked as well. But that one was really helpful to me. But just know that, again, I go back to a woman's superpower, and that's just being yourself, but believe in yourself first and foremost, and know that even if a door is closing, stick your foot in that door, keep it open and look for the next opportunity, outside, because it'll always be there. It's up to you to really look for it.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for talking so candidly with us and sharing your personal experiences. I hope you reach to a stage where you write a book on your journey, and that could be certainly inspiration for so many of them. Thank you so much, Dr. Judy. I wish you a happy Women's Day again, and keep inspiring.
Thank you to you too. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.